on preparation of soil, now we set our foot into the next idea called sowing of the seeds. So what questions are we going to be answering in this particular episode or module? Are quality of the seeds important? Are there good seeds and not so useful seeds? If there are, then how do you find out which is a good seed and which is not a good seed? That's question 1. Question 2 is, what tools can we use to make sowing these seeds easier and more efficient? And question number 3 is also, what is it that we need to make sure when we are sowing these seeds? So if you were to be a cultivator tomorrow, if you're going to try and grow something as a crop, what are the things you have to be careful about? So we have 3 questions if we're going to try and answer effectively and easily in this particular episode. Let's begin. So the first thing we want you to do is take a set of seeds of anything at all and put them into water. Right? Let them float on water or sink and watch what happens. Do all of them sink or do all of them float? Most often what you'll notice is that many of them sink, but a few of them are floating if you've got some good quality seed. And what does this mean? Some are sinking, some are floating, which means it's different in some way, but what more can we infer? So what we usually know is that when a seed gets spoiled, when it's useless right now, it's hollow. There's nothing inside. There's only the covering. So it's going to be hollow and very, very light. So it will be floating. So all the floating seeds are kind of useless for cultivation. So what you do have is the seeds that sink. So good and easy way, as you can see, that it's a very, very easy way to figure out whether seed quality is good or not, is going to be to try and sink those seeds in water. Do you also relate to the other idea where we do this, the other place where we do this rather? The eggs, right? You want to find out if an egg is rotten or if it's a normal healthy egg. Then what you do is you put it, or rather a healthful egg, you put it in water. Then what happens? Yeah, the one that is rotten will float. Do you know why though? Yeah, the rotten egg will float because in the process of rotting, it lets go of a gas. It releases a gas. The reaction releases a gas called hydrogen sulfide. Yeah, it is actually characterized by this rotten egg smell. Yeah, so it's not very pleasant. It's not a very pleasant smell. So when this gas builds up, what happens is that the egg is becoming lighter. In one sense, its buoyancy is increasing. Do you already know the word buoyancy? Yeah, if you don't, you can still go along. Yeah, it's becoming lighter and therefore it floats. So finding out about seeds is very, very similar to this. Now the next thing we want to find out is, what are the things that are important for sowing these seeds? What are the things you have to be careful about? One is how deep we sow them. We have to sow them not too deep, not too much on the surface. Because if it's too much on the surface, then birds might peck them away. If it's too deep, it may not really be in topsoil itself, right? It's just way too deep. It might not be able to even reach the surface. It's way too deep. So there is a perfect depth at which we sow these seeds. There is also a spacing between them. What happens if you crowd them too much? Yeah, what could happen? They're all going to begin to compete with each other too much, right? So there's too much competition happening, then there is a problem. So that's another thing we have to look for. So mainly keeping these 2 things in mind, let's look at the tools that we use. So the third thing we want to answer is, what are the tools that are used to sow seeds in an interesting manner? So let's look at the traditional tool, which is a long and big funnel that was used for a long, long time. Yeah, so what you do is you dig that funnel, you kind of insert that funnel into the ground, into the soil, and you start dropping your seeds inside. Now think about this. It's an efficient way, yes, but how many can you do? It's going to be one at a time, right? And also think about how you're going to make sure that the spacing is even, how you're going to make sure that the depth is even. It's all going to take a long time. So what do we do? In modern times, we use what's called a seed drill. A seed drill makes it so that these problems are solved very, very easily and efficiently. It saves a lot of time, saves a lot of labor. So one of the examples of science making it so that agriculture becomes pretty easy and efficient compared to what it was before. So in a seed drill, the spacing is made sure that it's fine, the depth is made sure that it's fine, and also it's made sure that soil covers these seeds after the seeding has been done, after the sowing has been done. So in summary, in this particular module, if you really paid attention, what you would have learned is that sowing is probably the most important part of the agricultural practice, and it's important to find out what quality of seeds are there, and to make them, you put them in water, you'll know if they float, they are bad quality seeds because they're floating. And it's important to know which tools are being used, and the tools that are used are a funnel or a seed drill. The seed drill makes it so that the aspects of sowing which are important are taken care of, like spacing, the depth, and covering it back with soil. So with all this in place, you might also know that some of these crops are grown in the nursery before they're transported to the main field. So rice, for example, many times is often grown in a nursery separately in little pockets. So you might see these little cute things with this little bag, and there's soil inside, and you have a plant that's coming out. Then you transport it to the big field. So that also happens sometimes. So this is a different way of doing this whole sowing process. So if you have been following along, you know that the next idea that's already waiting for us and queued up is the idea of manures and fertilizers to be able to provide plants with the best possible nutrients.